Hi, if this is your first time here, welcome to my YouTube channel. Or if you're like me and you've been here before, welcome back. I'm Chaotic Curl, and in this week's video, we're actually going to be working on my Christmas cardigan. But before we get into that, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and of course, don't forget to follow me over on my Instagram and on TikTok at chaoticcurl_crafts, where you'll be able to see pictures of the current project that I'm working on. All of the current projects that I'm working on, I usually post at least 1 or 2 TikToks and 1 or 2 reels about them just as I'm working on them, so everybody's kind of up to date with what's going on. But I also do have a current project that I'm working on for December where I'm actually making ornaments for a little Christmas tree that I was able to pick up. So don't forget to check that out as well. I'll see you guys over there. Now for this week's video, as I mentioned, I'm going to be working on a Christmas cardigan. And what's more Christmas than red and green yarn? So of course I have some green yarn right here. This is from Hobby Lobby. As you can see, it's the Big Idea Crafter's Secret, and this is in the color I'm Jealous. I don't really like the name of the color, but I definitely like the color, so I had to get it. The other color that I have is another one whose name they could have done a little more work on it, but it's this one from Crafter's Secret. Again, Big Idea, so it's the big skein of yarn, which has, as you can see, well, I'm not going to show it to you, but it has 810 yards. It's 100% acrylic, and it actually does ask for a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. So that's this hook that I'm going to be using right here. This is my 5.5, which has been very popular the last couple of months with me. So that's the one. And the name of the color that I'm not really too impressed by, it's just red. They could have been a little bit more creative with this color name too. But the third color that I'm going to be using in this pattern is actually a lot cuter, and it's a mix of the other 2 colors. Again, we're sticking to the, we're sticking to the Big Idea yarn, the Crafter's Secret right there, and as you can see, and this is called Christmas Print. So it's perfect for my Christmas cardigan. But I did also make sure to list down below in the description box all the other supplies and materials that I used in this project. So don't forget to check that out before you get started. Okay, so now that you've seen the color scheme that I plan on using, as well as the hook that I'm going to be using, the sweater, or the cardigan in this case, that I'm going to be making is actually going to be my first patchwork cardigan. So I do plan on using the 3 different colors in 3 different ways. I want to make a granny squares, or a couple of granny squares from one color. Then from the other color, I was hoping to make it ribbed, just for a little bit of, variety in the cardigan. And for the third one, I'm not sure if I'm just gonna do half double crochet or if I'm gonna do regular double crochet, but I am just gonna do a regular plain stitch for that one. Now I'm thinking the one that's gonna be the plain stitch is going to be the Christmas print, just so we can see the print to its best ability. I was hoping, if all goes well, I am gonna make samples of these, and of course I'll show you guys what they look like once the squares are done, but I was hoping to make the granny square out of the red color, and then using I'm Jealous to make the ribbing, or the ribbed squares. So that's the plan that I'm working with right now. Of course, things can change, and if they do change after I do the samples, if I decide I don't like it, of course I'll let you guys know. But as of right now, that is what I'm working on. So that's what I'm gonna start doing. So I'm gonna go ahead and start off making the samples to come back and show you guys what they look like. And then of course, to let you guys know that's what we're gonna be doing going forward. So I'll come back with those samples and show you guys. Okay, so here is the update. As you can see, I'm not quite finished with the green section, but I just wanted to come back and show you guys what I finally decided on. So here for the red, like I said, I'm going to be doing the granny square. Then for the Christmas print, I am going to be doing that half double crochet stitch. And for the green, I did try out the ribbing, but I didn't really like the way that it looked, so I'm gonna go with this crunch stitch instead. And of course, I'm gonna show you guys how I do each one, just so you guys have, well, so you guys can see how it's done. But this is what it's going to be looking like. Now I'm going to make sure to do all of the granny square ones first, and then I'll build the other 2 colors off of these squares. So I did the math, and I'm going to need 13 granny squares. So I'm going to work on the 13 granny squares first. So of course I'll be showing you how to do the granny square first, and then we'll go from there. And I just want to show you guys the pattern that I wrote out for what it's going to look like. Okay, so this is my plan. As of right now, we're working on that first stripe in the back panel. So as you see, I have the red, the Christmas print, and the green. and that's what I'm working on right now for my first panel. And then here I have the 2 front panels that I'm going to be making, and the 2 front panels are actually going to be requiring 3-inch stripes or 3-inch rectangles instead of 6-inch squares. So I'm going to work on those, and then of course I have the 2 sleeves planned out as well, and I'm thinking about adding half double crochet ribbing. So this is what it's looking like right now, or this is what I'm hoping it turns out to be. But of course, if any changes happen, I'll update you guys, but as of right now, this is the pattern that I'm working off of. So I'm going to continue finishing off the first stripe that I'm working on, which of course, like I said, it's going to be this one here. And then I'll come back and show you guys how to do the red granny square. And of course, once I'm ready to add the other ones, I'm planning on working on this one. So I'm going to do the red granny square first, and then I'll add the Christmas print and show you guys how I'm adding that onto the square. And of course, I'll add the green and the crunch stitch, and I'll show you guys how I'm adding that to the square as well. But that's what's happening right now, and I'll come back and show you guys how to make that granny square. Okay, so I'm ready to get started on the project, and we're actually going to start with the granny stripe squares or rectangles. So this is going to be in the front panel, the 3.5-inch rectangle that we're making. So I'm going to start off by making a chain of 14 stitches, which is going to be a multiple of 3 plus 2 stitches. And now I'm actually going to skip the first chain from my hook and go right into that next one with a single crochet. And I'm going to single crochet all the way across the row until I make it to the other end. Now, as you can see, now that I've made it to the last stitch, I am going to include the tail yarn into this final stitch just so that I can hold it down for when I'm making the double crochets to stitch it into that previous or to that next row. So as you can see, I'm just going to hold it up against the single crochet row that I just made, and I'm going to turn my work, and I'm going to start with my turning stitch, which is going to be that stacked single crochet. That's going to count as my first double crochet for the granny stripe. So I'm going to do that first single crochet, then I'm going to go into the back leg of that single crochet, yarn over and pull up a loop, and complete a second single crochet right on top of it. Now I'm going to do in that same stitch another double crochet. So now I have 2 double crochets because my turning stitch does count as a double crochet. We skip 2 stitches, and in that third stitch I'm going to do 3 double crochet, and that's going to be my first granny cluster. Then again, I'm going to continue with the same way. Go ahead and skip 2 stitches, and in the third stitch make another set of 3 double crochet, and I'm going to work this way up until I get to the end. So I'm going to skip 2 stitches, and in the third make 3 double crochet, which is our granny cluster. And then for that last stitch in the row, after I skip 2, I'm only going to do 2 double crochet, like how I did when I started the row. And this is what it should be looking like at the end. Now for this next row, we're going to do the second part of our 2-row repeat. So I'm going to start off with my stacked single crochet turning stitch, as you can see here. And for this one, I'm actually going to do just 1 double crochet in that stitch, and then go into the space between the 2 clusters from the previous row and do a cluster of 3 double crochet. And we're going to continue that way. We're going to be skipping over the clusters, and in the space between the clusters from the previous row, you're going to do 3 double crochet. And you're going to continue this way until you make it to the end of the row. And for the last stitch at the end of the row, you're just going to go into that final double crochet from the previous row and do 1 double crochet. And that's what it should be looking like. Now this is a 2-row repeat, so we're going to start over the same way we did row 1 for row 3, and we're going to do 2 double crochet in that first stitch, skip over the cluster of 3 granny crochets into the space of the next 3 clusters and do 3 clusters there. And you're just going to continue building it up this way, where if the row starts with 2 double crochet, you're going to finish with 2 double crochet, and if the row starts with 1 double crochet, you're going to finish with 1 double crochet, but you're building up the 3 clusters or the 3 double crochets into the space between the 3 clusters from the previous row. So just continue this way until you reach the length that you are going for. In my case, I'm going up to 6 inches for this little rectangle, so I'm just going to continue building it up that way until I reach the length that I need. And of course, I am going to make 2 since I do have 2 front panels that I'll be making. So this is what the completed rectangle looks like, and I'm not sure if you can tell, but I did finish it off with a row of single crochet just so that the top and the bottom match. So this is what the completed rectangle looks like, and this is at 6 inches. So I did make sure to measure along as I went just to make sure that the inches were correct. But this is what both completed rectangles look like. This is for the front panel, so I did make sure to make 2. They are the same width and the same length. So now I'm going to show you guys how to make the granny square. For the granny square, I like to start off with a magic circle. So as you can see, I'm wrapping it around my pointer and middle finger, going under the yarn, and then of course pulling up a loop so that way I can make my first chain. And there's my magic ring ready to be worked into. Now into the magic ring, I am going to start with my stacked single crochet turning stitch for that first double crochet, and that way I don't have to make any additional chains into this loop. So that's going to be 1 double crochet. I'm going to do 2 more double crochet, and then I'm going to make a chain 1. Now from here, I'm going to keep building up the base. So I'm going to do this 3 more times, where I'm going to do a cluster of 3 double crochet with a chain 1 at the end until I end up with 4 3 double crochet clusters and 4 chain 1s. So now that I've completed all 4 clusters with their 4 chain 1s at each end, I'm just going to untangle my tail yarn from the magic ring. I've again confirmed that I had all the stitches I needed before pulling that loop. Now I'm going to make it an invisible seam, so I'm going to remove the loop from my hook, put my hook into the first stitch from where we started. So that would be my turning stitch, as you can see here. And once I'm in that loop, I'm just going to put the loop back onto the hook and pull through that stitch. So this way I avoid making any additional chains. And now I'm ready to get started on that next row. So now we're ready to get started working on this second row for the granny square. So I'm just going to go into that chain 1 space from the previous row, working my turning stitch. As you can see here, it will be that stacked single crochet turning stitch. And then we're going to do 2 more double crochet. Since the turning stitch does count as a double crochet, that's 3 double crochet. Then I'm going to do a chain 1, and I'm going to do 3 more double crochet in the same chain space. And that's actually going to be my first corner for this round. Now we're going to continue building this round up by making all 3 corners, or the 3 additional corners that we need. So I'm actually going to skip the cluster of 3 double crochet from the previous row from round 1. I'm going to go into the chain space, and I'm going to build another corner. So that's going to be another cluster of 3 double crochet, chain 1, 3 double crochet into that same chain space from the previous row. And you're just going to continue this way until you make it back to the first cluster of 3 double crochet that we started with. Okay, so I've made it back to the first cluster, as you can see here. So I'm just going to take the loop off of my hook, turn my work, insert into that first stitch from the first cluster of this round, and then put the loop back onto my hook and pull through. And now I'm ready to start on row 3. Now for row 3, we're going to be working into these spaces. So we're going to be working the 3 clusters of double crochet into the spaces between the clusters from the previous row. And then from there, we're going to build the 3 up in that space. And then we're going to go right into the corner space. Okay, now in this corner space, we're going to do the same thing we did in the previous row, where we're going to do a cluster of 3 double crochet, a chain 1, and then another cluster of 3 double crochet. And that's actually how you're going to build up the corners for the rest of the project in every row continuing. And the same thing you're going to do in this row, you're going to continue for the rest of the project. So once you finish with that corner, you're going to go into the space between the clusters from the previous row and make a granny cluster, which is just the 3 double crochets. And we're going to continue that way until you make it back to the first stitch in the first cluster. So you're just going to be continuing building 3 granny crochets in each cluster space from the previous row, and in every corner you have 3 double crochet, a chain 1, and then 3 more double crochet. Now this is for row 4. I'm just showing you guys that I am continuing with the same way, taking the loop off of my hook and pulling the loop through without making any additional chains or any slip stitches. And again, like I mentioned, you're just going to build your granny square by doing a cluster of 3 double crochet into the chain spaces, or into the cluster spaces from the previous row, and you're going to continue building your corners up the same way. So this is just for row 4, but I do continue this way for the remaining rows until I reach 6 inches. This is what the completed granny square looks like. I did end up working out to 7 rows to get my 6 inches, but now I'm just going to make 12 more granny squares, or 11 more in this case, so that way I can have enough squares to build up the other 2 colors and make my stripes, or my strips, for each panel. So I'm going to continue from there. Okay, so as I stated, I am going to be building up the other colors on top of the granny squares and granny stripe rectangles. So I did attach my Christmas print yarn to this one. Now, as you can see, I'm going to make a chain 1 because I am building up a half double crochet. So into that first stitch, I'm just going to get started and I'm going to do my first half double crochet. So I already did my chain 1. Now we're going to yarn over, go into that first stitch, yarn over and pull through. I have 3 loops on my hook, and you just yarn over and pull through all 3, and that's how you make the half double crochet. I'm just going to half double crochet all the way across this row, and then I'm going to half double crochet, or well, I'm going to chain 1 to start the next row, and then continue half double crocheting until I reach the 6 inches that I need to be able to complete this portion of the square, or of the rectangle, since this would be the smaller portion of that front panel. But that is how I'm going to continue working it up, and that's of course how I'm going to continue working it up even on the granny square. So this is the half double crochet for the Christmas print. And as I said, I built it up to 6 inches. So this is what the Christmas print is looking like attached to the granny stripe. So now we're going to continue with the green. So now for this portion, I'm actually going to attach my yarn into the back loop. So as you can see here, there are 2 little legs for each stitch. I'm just going to go into that back one, or the one farthest from me. I'm going to put my slip stitch onto my hook, and I'm just going to pull through, make sure it's tight first, and then I'm just going to pull it through there. Now I'm going to go into the actual stitch, so under both legs of the stitch, and I feel like this is the best way to anchor my yarn into the loop, so that way I don't have to worry about it looking awkward or making any additional spaces that I don't want. So I'm just going to go in under the both legs of that first stitch, and let me just separate my tail end. I'm going to lay it across so that I can stitch it in as I go. And now I'm going to do my stacked single crochet turning stitch into this first stitch. So this is going to count as my first double crochet. And as I had previously mentioned, for the green yarn, we're actually going to be doing the crunch stitch. So that's going to be a double crochet and a single crochet combination stitch. So I started with my first double crochet. We go into the next stitch and we put a single crochet. I'm struggling a little bit. I did make it a little tight, the single crochets for the red one. That's why I'm having a bit of trouble, but it does loosen up as I go on, so just be patient with me. But there's my single crochet, and then again the next stitch is going to be a double crochet, and you're just going to continue that way, alternating between single crochet and double crochet for this first row. Okay, now that first row is completed, so I'm just going to show you guys how to do the next row. I'm not going to make any chain stitches since I don't want it to build up in a weird way. So I'm just going to go right into that first stitch that was previously a double crochet, and I'm going to put a single crochet there. Now in the next stitch that was previously a single crochet, I'm going to build a double crochet, and you're just going to continue that way, where you're going to put single crochets on top of double crochets and double crochets on top of single crochets. Now you do have to keep track of how the stitches are coming up, since it can get a little bit confusing. So if you're not well versed in how the stitches look, it does look a lot better in person. It's a lot easier to tell the difference between them. But as you can see here, that's what the stitch kind of builds up like. So this is what the texture looks like for this pattern or for this crunch stitch. And again, you just continue the same way, where if it's a single crochet, you would put a double crochet on top of it, like how I'm doing here. So for that next stitch, it's going to be a single crochet since it was previously a double crochet. And I would just say to keep an eye on the previous row so that you know which stitch you're putting on top of it. And again, you're going to be putting single crochets on top of double crochets, like how I'm doing here, and double crochets on top of single crochets, like how I'm doing once again. So I'm not sure if you can really tell, but that is a single crochet. So I'm going to put a double crochet right on top of it, and you would just continue building it up this way. I did make sure to link down below in the description box a tutorial on how to do this stitch, just in case my explanation wasn't very clear or it was a bit confusing. So don't forget to check out the description box below. Now, unfortunately, I did end up getting sick while I was making this cardigan, so I didn't record the end of this strip, and I didn't record a lot of other information as well. But I did make sure to link down below the information that you are going to need. So again, don't forget to check out that description box. Okay, so I did get a little bit ahead of myself, but I did finish all of the panels for the front, back, as well as the sleeves. And as you can see, I did add ribbing onto the end of the sleeves as well as at the bottom of all the other panels. So don't forget to check out the description box below for the video tutorial where I learned how to add ribbing to finish crochet squares. But again, I did finish all of the stripes for all of the panels, so I'm going to show you guys that next. So here is what the front and back panel are looking like sewn into panels. I did already go ahead and attach them at the shoulder, but you can see that they have their ribbing at the bottom, and as well at the bottom of the sleeves, or at the cuff of the sleeves, you can see that the ribbing is already there. But this is what the sleeve panels are looking like as well. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to attach these sleeves to the body of the cardigan, and of course I'll show you guys what it's looking like once the cardigan is done. Happy belated Christmas and happy belated New Year's. Thanks for joining me in 2024. Now for my finished 2023 Christmas cardigan. This is what it looks like. As you can see, all of the patches lined up perfectly. And again, the way to add ribbing to the neck as well as to the cuffs and the bottom of the cardigan are in the description box below. So don't forget to check that video out so you can get information on how to do that. That's where I learned how to do it, so we can learn from her together. But this is what the cardigan looks like. And I love that it matches up in the front perfectly and in the back as well. The only complaints that I have are that I made the sleeves a little too long and the opening for the neck is a little too big. So I am going to try to modify it just a little bit, but as of right now, I'm tired of working on it. So since it's done, I'm just going to leave it like this, and I'm actually going to use it like this for a little bit. I've been enjoying wearing it all day today, so I'm just going to keep it like this for just a little longer, and then maybe sometime down the line, I'll fix it or I'll change it. But yeah, this is my first experience with a patchwork cardigan, so this is, I feel like it went pretty well. I really like the Christmas print, the way that it looks. But I'm definitely going to throw this into the washer and dryer just so that the stitches can relax a little bit, and to see if maybe it'll get just a little bit more softer, since it does feel pretty stiff right now. So yeah, this is what it's looking like. One more look at the cardigan. The sleeves. And I actually really do like it. I just don't like the sleeves being too long and the neck being way too open. But I definitely do like the cardigan. I like the idea of it. So I'll definitely be making this again with a different color scheme, of course. But yeah, I had fun making this cardigan. If I wouldn't have gotten sick, I probably would have finished it a lot sooner. But life happened, and here we are. At least it didn't make it past the second week of January. So thanks for joining me in this week's video. I hope you guys had a great holiday and you're enjoying a happy 2024. Let's continue. Thanks for sticking with me through all of 2023, and let's see what happens in 2024. I do have plans of making at least one cardigan every month, but let's see how that goes. So this could be the first cardigan or just a sample. I'm definitely gonna get better than this from here, but yeah, this is definitely gonna be remade again, so check it out and prepare to see it in another color. Thanks for joining me. You guys have a great day. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and of course, don't forget to join me over on TikTok and Instagram at chaoticgirl_crafts, where you'll be able to see TikToks and reels of this cardigan, as well as previous projects that I've made and upcoming projects that I have. I'll see you guys over there. Bye.